Cool. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I have to.
Thanks for having me.
I have to start with the name Net Biscuits. Were you hungry when you named the company, or did it pivot from being cookies?
Definitely hungry for money when we started the company in 2000 as students right from university. But the name comes actually from us. We've built a development framework alongside with a device database, which we still use for all our products. And you used that development framework in a way that you had pre-programmed code features, which are the biscuits which you use to construct your sites.
Okay. So you move your
that's where the strange
around.
name is coming from.
Oh, okay. So just expand on that a little bit for people who might not have heard of the company, or what does Net Biscuits do and for whom?
Right. So Net Biscuits is a mobile web analytics and development cloud platform. So on the analytics side, we help our clients to, let's say, segment their customers and analyze them based on device profiles. So we've built the world's best mobile device database where we do real-time testing of all devices which hit the market, quality assured. And we also help them with analytics tools to, let's say, make trend analysis and also do testing and bug fixing of sites they developed. And then our development tools help you to expand maybe on your responsive design strategies and, let's say, improve the responsive design sites you build with tools to optimize images, video, and other services.
And so do you do this, is it mostly, smaller companies? Is it large firms? Is it?
Well, we work for large enterprises, so that's our specialty with an enterprise class platform. So we work for guys like eBay since 2003. We have MTV on our platform. Many large consumer brands like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble use our platform since years.
Can you give us an example of say, what one of those companies did and how it helped them, or?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at, let's say at Coca-Cola, for example, I mean, what they really wanted to do at some point of time was to standardize the look and feel of all their mobile web applications across the globe, across all brands they had. And in the past, they just did it in a way of kind of, let's say, hiring individual agencies and then gave them the task in a certain country to build mobile sites. And that was very hard to maintain and roll out for them.
It's got to be a big job. I mean, they've got a ton of different sites, different applications.
Exactly. Many different CMS systems you have to connect to, and that was a huge challenge for them. So they look for a platform which can help them standardize what they're doing on the front-end side across all devices, from actually a feature phone, which is still important for Coca-Cola, if you look at them going into emerging markets, up to smartphones, tablets, and more.
And I guess, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you've been in the industry a long time. What are some of the sort of common failings, if you will, or challenges that companies face when and are they different now than they used to be?
Well, I think the one common challenge I think customers always faced of us is, let's say, that people believe in standards. Let's say that they're going to do the job, but at the end of the day, the market is so fast-moving. Technologies with different devices are changing so fast that usually standards alone don't get you there. So people always look for a solution which can help them standardize what they're doing, and make it more efficient to roll out. That's one common thing I always see. And
so looking for something that you can sort of just not cookie cutter, but sort of stamp it out because you've standardized on a particular approach, as opposed to adapting to different.
I think what people in mobile always neglected are the possibilities of mobile. So let's say people tended to always build like, you have maybe the native app world and the mobile web world. And mobile web, they always kind of try to build most common denominator solutions. So easy solutions which they hope they're going to work on mobile devices. Let's say make the decisions based on gut feel. That's what's happening a lot. And let's say what you then neglect is, let's say, or some people just maybe focus on the top 10 devices which they see hitting their sites, and they believe that's enough. But our stats show that then you're missing out 50% of the market, which is 3,000 devices which are out there, and you don't want to get, let's say, you don't want to lose that piece of the pie. So let's say, and then mobility and mobile devices, they're different than your PC. You have features like sensors embedded, which you can use to make the services more contextual. And that's what people actually lacked doing since we founded the company in 2000, but now starting to realize how important it is to really build a great mobile web user experience.
Because I guess for lots of companies, especially if they're, they have a lot of other things to do, maybe mobile is sort of part of their strategy, but they've got, stores or, they're giant entities. They're hoping, well, we'll just take one thing that works pretty well and then we'll just roll it out over everything. And if we miss people who are using, X handset, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, we do lots of research, and what we actually realized, I'm not sure if it resonates with people in the room, is that, let's say, in our research, we found out that most companies, an average companies only test their services they developed on 7 devices.
Really?
So, and if you look at the, let's
How
say,
many
the world
devices are there?
Well, I mean, of course, historically there are thousands, right? So we have 6,000 in our 6,000 in our database, but I mean, the relevant device number is lower. But as I said, you know, there's 3,000 devices in average accessing our platform every day.
3,000.
So 7 devices doesn't really do the job. And where standards help you to do things much better than before, you still need to do lots of testing, and people don't do it. So what we're trying to do with our solution and also the analytics products we have is that you can move from, let's say, gut feel over to facts-based driven decisions, really analyze the traffic of your site, see what device is accessing your site, and then also match it to your customer profiles to then really come up with a targeted experience for, let's say, you know, maybe you realize most of your users are maybe smartphone users, but let's say maybe don't realize you have many users suddenly also on phablets, which is a completely new kind of device class. And without really the right tools, it's really hard for you to get out of this gut feel decision.
So the analytics offering that you have, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think it's the first solution which really allows you to leverage device data to build customer profiles. So if you look at traditional analytics tools, they, let's say, tell you a lot about the customer journey which is out there, which, let's say, what's going right, what's going wrong there. But let's say to really understand what devices are accessing your site that you can do, and we do this with this device database which we created, which is virtually an award-winning database, which has what we call dynamic and static parameters, and it does much more than just telling you what the screen size or a certain feature of a device.
Because lots of things have analytics. I mean, Google, you know, and Omniture and so on, but they tell you OS or screen size or yeah.
So the basic data, but what we would, for example, be able to tell you, let's say, what bandwidth the users and let's say what battery power the device has, which is accessing your site.
And that's pretty relevant if you want to start feeding video or things that will use up a lot of.
Yeah. I mean, if you take maybe a simple example, you could think of, let's talk about media companies, and maybe they have to, let's say, or they want to monetize via video advertising. Many clients we have, let's say, they would really want to know, let's say, which, let's say, users are accessing the site in terms of in what bandwidth they are in. Do they have a low-end, high-end, mid-end device, let's say, based, which we would identify not only by screen size, but again, maybe processing power and so forth.
So then you can decide what to send to them?
Yes, and then you can decide what video sent to them dynamically without letting the user manually to choose between low or high bandwidth. So, and that allows them to increase their video advertising conversion tremendously. And that's just one very simple example of how you can performance tweak with analytics and our tools these sites so that you can maximize conversions and ad revenues in e-commerce transactions or just in consumer engagement.
So how many different things would you be able to tell from the analytics that you could get from NetBiscuits?
I think in total we have about 750 parameters in our system, let's say, which you then also not only can look individually at. I think what's really unique at NetBiscuits is that you can also cluster them. So you can create your own clusters of parameters and then decide.
So you could sort of have low-end user, you know, feature phone user with all the attributes that would. Exactly. Interesting. Right. And then do you find there's more reception to that idea, that companies are thinking more about instead of pushing out something standardized that they need to customize for different, or do they not care that much?
Well, I think, I mean, we're always amazed how let's say that people have not really thought about it when you go into discussions. I think there are different types of customers we have. Some are really educated already, let's say, which really have called it a Google mobile first strategy, and they know how important it is, and then they look for platforms like ours, and they go for that decision actively. And I think you meet lots of other guys where you just really have to do lots of education. You come in, you ask them, how does your traffic look like? You know, do you know what devices are accessing it? And they're telling, I don't know, but I have a responsive site, so it should be fine, right? So, and then once we then go together, let's say, work together with them and figure out what's actually going on their site, then they are really, really willing to let's say engage with us. Yeah, absolutely. Because again, if you're an ad, let's say if you monetize via ad revenue and somebody tells you you're just missing out 50% of all users you have out there, I mean, that's a pretty compelling argument to go for it.
And do you think that the responsive design, you know, is generally a good thing as opposed to the kind of, you know, what we used to have before? you could modify that quickly and easily?
Absolutely. I think, I mean, first of all, the advantage of responsive design, of course, it is based on standards, which is a good thing, right? You leverage HTML5, JavaScript, and so forth to do that. It's the right, let's say, starting point. But again, I think responsive design comes very much from, I would say, the web world. And again, understanding mobile, leveraging features of mobile devices is, I think, the next level. People have to go what we would call adaptive, right? So really make sites more adaptive, more contextual. I think people which always leverage that approach have been really most successful. If you look at guys like eBay over years, they have built really sophisticated services which don't only rearrange content on the site, they really leverage phone features or bridge the gap between the online and offline world.
Well, and I wonder whether responsive design in a way, particularly for content companies, wasn't kind of a, it was an easy out in a way. It saved you from having to think about all the different platforms and customizing different things. It's responsive. So then it works on everything, except presumably it doesn't work on everything. Always.
Yeah, again, not always. That's the point, right? So I think it's the right basis, and that's what we recommend to our customers as well. But I think, again, if you want to cover, let's say, and get the max out of what you're doing, I think then you need to go the next step to the adaptive technologies and implement them. And I think actually in the responsive design community, that's actually also kind of being discussed already. Let's say, moving from pure responsive design over to responsive design with server-side components, RESS, that's a new trend everybody's talking about, which kind of fundamentally, let's say, leverages the best from two worlds and tries to combine them.
If there's any questions, I think we have microphones if anybody wants to step up. Anyone? No? Think up some good questions. I wonder, obviously mobile's been, and you mentioned it, the native apps versus HTML5. Do you see those things as one sort of transitioning to the other, or as being in conflict, or does it depend on what your strategy is, what you're trying to do?
It depends on what you said, on the letter you said. I mean, I think it really depends on the strategy and the use cases you want to do. So these two ecosystems will definitely coexist for a long time. I think, I mean, the last years since 2007 have been very native app focused, but there's a huge push definitely of people want to move onto HTML5 because it's just a more efficient way to build and maintain mobile web applications. And you're going to see a big trend that people also gradually kind of move into that direction. But there are just many use cases where you will never go away from native apps, and it makes totally sense to keep it.
And I suppose some things where you want to access specific aspects of the device, the accelerometer or whatever, that's a lot easier to do with a native app.
Yeah, I think over time HTML5 is closing very fast the gap between the native, let's say, features and features you can leverage there, and let's say coming very close. So again, things like battery status, that's something you can, let's say, pull out of a JavaScript code already, and kind of, I think that's already a sign that it's going that direction. So we're a little bit, as NetBiscuits, we're a little bit religious about HTML5, so we're really big believers in that technology, but every customer we have, it coexists, right? So Coke, for example, would rather use, let's say, native applications for very high-end, let's say, gaming-type content, social content, and for other services, they use mobile web.
And so they're happy to do whatever, at the same time.
Right.
It's not like you have to choose one and then just do that.
No, I don't think it makes sense.
You and I were talking about before about how, 2000 is a long time ago in mobile terms, or just purely in sort of internet technology terms. I mean, it's like, you were around when mobile dinosaurs roamed the earth and everyone was using, WAP or whatever the heck it was on their little flip phones.
I'm a German, so back until 2005, innovation in mobile still came from Europe. Now it's moved here to the US.
Yeah.
You guys did it again.
Yeah, we're sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it has been a very long time. But again, I think I think we were visionary to see already when we saw the first Nokia phone came out that one day, ultimately, I mean, when you look at trends, that people are just going to use a mobile device to access.
You saw that at the time.
We believed in that, right? That was how we founded the company, and that's why we thought we really just focus on the software to support that. And I think that's really what's happening right now. So what people are realizing is it's not that mobile is not a channel anymore. It's just internet is mobile, and you're going to have different screens which surround you, and they have different ways how you can interact with the content, and that's the future. So this, I mean, one web, so to speak, that approach I think is the future, and then becoming more contextual and really leveraging, let's say, the environment the user's in while it's accessing your content is actually key for high conversions of any kind.
And actually, I know Rich Miner was talking about the sort of the potential he sees in doing that, having applications that know things about you through the device, not just location, but all sorts of things about what you're doing. Are you in motion? You know, there's still such a huge amount of potential there. Do you think that it's better now in the sense that, I mean, there are, you know, 3,000, I think you said, handsets or different devices.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be watches and Google Glass and things that we haven't even thought of.
Right.
Is that, it must be hard, though, for companies to manage all that if there's so much fragmentation. I mean, it used to be, you know, you had this phone or that phone, and that was pretty much it. You know, now you've got so many different screen sizes and.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if anybody out there who wants to provide services to his consumer base,
or
I mean, has to
guys.
think, well, but I mean, has to watch out. I mean, we have guys which suddenly are being hit. Let's say suddenly within a year's time, 50% of their traffic is coming from a mobile device. Nothing you've built is ready for that. So the biggest need enterprises and any brand right now has to have a working mobile site. That's number one, right? So you need to get that done.
But it's almost hard to believe that that would come as news to.
Well, not news, but I mean,
but you're still not
but the market
ready.
is moving faster that you could kind of adapt to it, right? If you look at large organizations, then they maybe can't adapt that quickly, right?
Or maybe they think that evolution is going to take, you know, 2 years, and in actuality, it's like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say the name, but there were many one large brand. No, I can't.
No, sure.
But one large brand I talked to here over the US in 2008. I talked to the CTO, and they still said, you know, maybe Michael, we were just considering to turn off all that mobile stuff. Right.
Turn it off?
Yeah, turn it off. So we don't do it anymore. I think people would just access the PC website. That should be fine.
You're kidding.
And thankfully, they changed their mind within a year because new people were coming on. So it's not, I mean, we're now sitting here
really
and it's
want
obvious.
To know who that is.
It's obvious, it's clear, so now nobody can escape. But a couple of years back, that was quite different.
That's incredible. Now it's killing me. I need to find out who that company was.
I'm gonna maybe tell it to you later.
Yeah.
But not here.
Okay. But I guess there are lots of companies that maybe don't even, maybe they already know mobile is going to be big, but they don't understand how to get what they do to work on all of those devices. I mean, presumably that's what you're trying to help them do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we're mobile web experts, and again, with our approach of analytics and the development tools, we can really help people to form their web strategy, right? So we can make data-driven decisions. We go in, let's say we integrate our tools, then we then with our experience can at least tell you what the right mobile web experience should look like so that it's future-proof and that you're building in a way that, let's say, you're going to make money with it.
Instead of your CEO just saying, hey, I think this new thing is going to be big. Let's put everything on that.
We'll never change that.
Still going to happen.
So I think that's always happening. But again, I think the facts are overwhelming for people by now, right? So again, if suddenly 50% of your traffic is from a mobile device and you make money with mobile advertising, you have to figure it out. Right. So.
Great. Well, I see that we're out of time. Thanks very much for coming.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Pretty sure we're serving net biscuits on the